The stars were dying. Commander Ji-ho Kim watched from the bridge of his patrol ship as another refugee vessel limped past Earth's borders. The alien ship looked like it had been through hell. Burns covered its metal skin. Parts of it were missing completely. Inside that ship were probably thousands of beings who had lost everything. "Sir, that's the 5th refugee ship this week," said So-Young Lee from her position at the communication station. Her voice was quiet. Everyone on the bridge felt the same sadness when they saw these broken ships. "I know," Ji-ho replied. He had been counting too. Every week brought more ships. Every week brought more stories of destroyed worlds and dead families. The war was getting worse. The Galactic Civil War had been going on for 3 years now. On one side was the Vorthon Empire. They were warriors who believed in honor and strength. They fought with huge ships and powerful weapons. On the other side was the Celestial Federation. They were smart and used advanced technology. They fought with precise attacks and clever strategies. Both sides were destroying everything. "Any word from command about letting them land?" asked Taemin Choi from his station. He was young and still believed they should help everyone they could. "Negative," Ji-ho said. "Earth's position remains the same. We maintain neutrality. We don't take sides." It was the same answer every time. President Hyun-woo Park had made it clear from the beginning. Earth would not get involved in this war. Humanity was too young, too small, too weak to survive in a conflict this big. Better to stay quiet and hope the fighting would end someday. Ji-ho understood the logic, but he didn't like it. None of them did. The refugee ship disappeared into the distance, heading for one of the neutral worlds that still accepted survivors. Ji-ho hoped they would find safety there. Too many of the neutral worlds were starting to close their borders too. The war was spreading and nowhere felt safe anymore. "Contact from Earth Command," So-Young announced. "Priority message. Put it through." The face of Admiral Kyung-Soo Jung appeared on the main screen. The Admiral looked tired. Everyone looked tired these days. "Commander Kim, I need a status report on border activity. 17 refugee ships this month, sir. No military vessels have approached our space. Both sides are still respecting our neutrality." "Good, keep it that way." "How are supplies to our colonies?" "New Seoul is operating normally. Administrator Hee Jin Nam reports mining operations are at full capacity. Terra Nova is the same. Director Sung Ho Yoon says they're meeting all quotas." This was how Earth survived. They sold raw materials to both sides of the war. Rare metals, energy crystals, food supplies. Both the Vorthons and the Federation needed these things to keep fighting. As long as Earth supplied both sides equally, neither side had reason to attack them. It felt wrong to Ji-ho. They were helping the war continue by giving both sides what they needed to kill each other. But President Park said it was the only way to keep Earth safe. "Sir," Taemin spoke up, "there's something else. We've been monitoring communications from the refugee ships. They're talking about a new Vorthon commander, someone called War Prince Thexmalon." Admiral Jung's face went dark. "What about him?" "The refugees are scared, sir. Really scared. They say he's different from other Vorthon commanders. Crueler. He doesn't just defeat enemies, he destroys them completely. Entire planets. All the people on them." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew the Vorthons could be brutal, but they usually followed their warrior code. They fought soldiers, not civilians. This sounded different. "Keep monitoring those communications," the Admiral ordered. "I want to know everything about this Thexmalon." Young out, the screen went dark. Ji-ho stared at the stars outside his ship. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Entire species were being wiped out. "And Earth just watched, Commander," So-Young said quietly. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" It was the question they all thought about but rarely asked out loud. Ji-ho looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had joined Earth's defense force to protect humanity, but now they spent their time watching others suffer. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know what happens to small animals when big predators fight. They get stepped on. Maybe staying out of the way is the only choice we have. But what if staying out of the way isn't enough?" Taemin asked. "What if one of them decides we're in the way anyway?" Ji-ho didn't have an answer for that. None of them did. Later that day, reports came in from across human space. The colonies were doing well. Trade was profitable. Earth's neutrality was holding. On paper, everything looked good, but the refugee ships kept coming. And the stories they brought got worse every day. In the capital city of New Seoul, Administrator Hyejin Nam tucked her daughter Mi Young into bed. The little girl asked why the alien ships looked so broken. Hyejin told her they were just old ships that needed repairs. She didn't mention the war. She didn't talk about the millions who had died. Some truths were too heavy for children. On Terra Nova, Director Sung Ho-yoon watched another shipment of rare metals leave for Vorthon space. The payment would feed Earth's colonies for months. But late at night, he wondered what weapons those metals would build. How many would die because of the materials he had sold? These were the questions that haunted Earth's leaders. They had chosen neutrality to save humanity. But every day they wondered if they were saving themselves by helping others die. In his office on Earth, President Hyun-woo Park read the daily reports. No attacks on human territory. No threats from either side. Trade profits were up. By every measure, his policy was working, but sleep came hard these nights. Because somewhere in the dark between the stars, War Prince Thexmalin was building a reputation for cruelty that made even hardened warriors afraid, and neutrality only worked as long as both sides respected it. The war was spreading. The refugees kept coming, and Earth watched from the sidelines, hoping that staying small would keep them safe in a galaxy where giants were tearing each other apart. They had no way of knowing that their time of watching was almost over. The ships came without warning. Administrator Hyejin Nam was having breakfast with her daughter Mi Young when the alarm started screaming across New Seoul. Through their apartment window, she could see massive shapes blocking out the sun. Vorthon warships hung in the sky like metal mountains. "Mommy, what are those?" Mi Young asked, pressing her small face against the glass. Hyejin's blood went cold. "Go to your room, sweetheart. Play with your toys. Don't come out until I say." She had dealt with Vorthon traders before. They were proud and sometimes rude, but they followed the rules. They respected Earth's neutrality. This felt different. These weren't trade ships. These were weapons of war. Her communicator buzzed. "Administrator Nam, this is Defense Station Alpha. We count 47 Vorthon warships in orbit. They're not responding to our hails. Keep trying," she ordered, "and contact Earth immediately. Tell them what's happening." In the Capitol building, emergency meetings started within minutes. The colony's small defense force was useless against a fleet this size. New Seoul had some weapons, but they were meant to stop pirates and asteroids, not an entire Vorthon battle fleet. Captain Dong-hyun Kang was in his diplomatic ship Harmony when the Vorthons arrived. He had been preparing for a routine trade meeting. Now he found himself facing the largest military force he had ever seen. "This is Captain Kang of the Earth vessel Harmony," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Welcome to New Seoul. How may we assist you today?" The answer came in a voice like grinding metal. "I am War Prince Thexmalin of the Vorthon Empire. You will prepare for immediate inspection of your facilities." Dong-hyun felt sweat on his forehead. War Prince Thexmalin. The name every refugee ship had been whispering in fear. "Of course, Your Highness. We're always happy to accommodate Vorthon representatives. If you could just follow normal diplomatic procedures—" "There are no procedures," Thexmalin interrupted. "There is only my will. You will comply or face consequences." The connection cut. Dong-hyun stared at his communications officer. Neither of them had ever heard a Vorthon speak like that. Even their most arrogant traders followed basic diplomatic rules. An hour later, Thexmalin himself arrived at the Capitol building. He was huge even for a Vorthon, covered in scars and wearing armor that looked like it had seen 1,000 battles. Behind him came a squad of warriors who looked ready to start killing at any moment. Administrator Nam met them in the main conference room. She had dealt with difficult aliens before. Stay calm, be polite, and stick to the rules. That usually worked. "War Prince Thexmalin," she said with a slight bow. "Welcome to New Seoul. We're honored by your visit. What can we do for the Vorthon Empire today?" Thexmalin looked around the room like he was examining something disgusting. "Your neutrality ends today, human. From now on, you serve only the Empire. You will stop all trade with the Federation immediately." Hyejin felt her stomach drop. "I'm sorry, Your Highness, but Earth's policy requires us to maintain neutrality in the current conflict. We have agreements with both sides. Your agreements mean nothing," Thexmalin roared. His hand went to his weapon. "I have watched your pathetic species grow rich while real warriors die. You sell to our enemies and call it neutrality. You are parasites." "That's not true," Hyejin said carefully. "We sell equally to both sides. We take no part in the fighting. You take no part because you are cowards. Thexmalon stood up so fast his chair crashed backward. You hide behind words while the galaxy burns, no more. You will serve the Empire or you will be destroyed. The room went silent. Captain Donghyun tried to step forward. War Prince, surely we can discuss this. Earth has always been a friend to the Vorthan people. Friends? Thexmalon laughed, but there was no humor in it. You are insects. Useful insects, perhaps, but still insects. And when insects become troublesome, they get stepped on. Hyejin felt anger rising in her chest. She pushed it down. Getting angry would only make things worse. What exactly are you asking for? All mining operations will now serve only the Empire. All ships will carry only Vorthan goods. All communication with Federation forces will cease immediately. You have 1 day to comply. I don't have authority to make those decisions, Hyejin said. I would need to contact Earth. Then contact them, Thexmalon snarled. Tell them their insects have a new master. After the Vorthans left, Hyejin immediately called Earth. President Hyunwoo Park himself took the call within minutes. What are his exact demands? The president asked. Hyejin repeated everything. Park was quiet for a long time. We can't agree to those terms, he finally said. Our neutrality agreements prevent exclusive deals with either side. Tell him we need more time to discuss it. Sir, I don't think he's in a discussing mood. Then we'll have to hope he comes to his senses. But Thexmalon didn't come to his senses. The next morning, when Hyejin sent a message asking for more time, his response was simple. Time is up. What happened next would be remembered as the moment everything changed. At exactly noon, local time, energy beams fell from the sky like the hand of an angry god. They struck the capital district with precision that only the most advanced weapons could achieve. In 30 seconds, the heart of New Seoul's largest city simply ceased to exist. 200,000 people died in those 30 seconds. Men, women, children, elderly, it didn't matter. The beams cut through buildings like they were made of paper. Entire city blocks turned to ash and flame. Hyejin was in the government building when it happened. The building shook so hard she thought it would collapse. Through the windows, she could see a wall of fire where the downtown area used to be. Her apartment had been in that area. Her daughter had been in that area. She ran toward the destruction, but security guards held her back. The radiation levels were too high. Nothing could survive in that burning wasteland. Captain Dong-hyun watched from his ship as the city died. His communications officer was crying. His weapons officer was cursing in languages that didn't have strong enough words for what they were seeing. Sir, his pilot whispered, what do we do? Dong-hyun had no answer. What could one small diplomatic ship do against a fleet that had just murdered a city? Thexmalon's voice came over all frequencies. This is what happens to insects who forget their place. New Seoul Colony will now provide tribute to the Empire, or more cities will burn. You have learned what happens when you deny a Vorthan warrior. The message spread across human space within hours. Earth's leadership watched the recordings in stunned silence. The president called an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. Admiral Kyung-soo Jung spoke first. We have to respond. They just murdered 200,000 civilians. With what? Asked Foreign Minister Young Mi-han. Our entire fleet couldn't scratch that Vorthan force. We attack them. They'll do the same thing to Earth. So we do nothing, Admiral Jung demanded. We let them turn our people into slaves? The argument went on for hours. Some wanted immediate retaliation. Others wanted to try diplomacy. A few suggested abandoning the colonies entirely. Finally, President Park called for silence. Contact every government on Earth, he said quietly. Contact every colony, every ship, every human in space. I'm addressing the species in 1 hour. The address was simple and short. President Park sat behind his desk looking directly into the camera. My fellow humans, he began. Today, the Vorthan Empire attacked our colony at New Seoul. They murdered 200,000 innocent people. Children, families, people whose only crime was being human. He paused. Around the solar system, billions of humans watched and waited. For 3 years, we have maintained neutrality in this galactic war. We believed that staying out of the conflict would keep us safe. We were wrong. War has come to us whether we wanted it or not. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. They attacked us because they thought we were weak. They killed our people because they thought we wouldn't fight back. They are about to learn that there is a difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. The broadcast ended. Across human space, the message was clear. Earth's neutrality was over. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when you made humanity angry. The factories never stopped. All across Earth, machines that had been building cars and computers and household goods suddenly changed their purpose. Chief Engineer Boram Co stood in what used to be the largest automobile factory in Asia, watching robotic arms that once assembled family vehicles now building weapon systems. "How long until full conversion?" asked the military inspector beside her. 3 more days for this facility," Boram replied. "But we're already producing components. The first batch of fighter engines will be ready tomorrow." The inspector looked amazed. "I've never seen anything like this." "How are you retooling so fast?" Boram smiled grimly. "Human factories are designed to be flexible. We change what we make all the time. Fashion, technology, consumer demands, we adapt quickly. Now we're adapting for war." It wasn't just Earth. Every human world had received the same orders. Stop everything. Build weapons. Build ships. Build them fast. On Luna, the great mining robots that carved tunnels through the moon's rock now dug underground shipyards. On Mars, the atmosphere processors were converted to produce materials for armor plating. In the asteroid belt, mining stations became weapons factories floating in the dark. Dr. Minho Zhang had been studying alien technology for 20 years. He knew how Vorthan energy weapons worked, how Federation shield generators operated, how every major species built their war machines. Now he used that knowledge for something new. "The Vorthan plasma cannons are powerful but inefficient," he explained to his research team. "They waste 60% of their energy as heat. We can build the same weapons with half the power requirements." Dr. Yunji Quan nodded from across the lab. "And the Federation shields are almost perfect against energy weapons. But they can't handle rapid kinetic impacts. If we hit them with enough small projectiles fast enough, they'll overload. Can we combine both approaches?" Minho asked. "Already working on it," Yunji replied. "Kinetic weapons with plasma charges. Best of both worlds." This was how humans approached problems. They looked at what already existed, found the flaws, and built something better. Other species spent centuries perfecting one approach. Humans spent months combining the best parts of everything. General Insu Park stood in the newly built command center, watching reports flow in from across human space. His brother, the president, had put him in charge of military operations, and what he saw amazed even him. "Sir, production report from Earth," his aide announced. "This week we completed 400 fighter craft, 23 destroyers, and 6 heavy cruisers." "What about the colonies?" "New Sol is offline for obvious reasons. But Terra Nova just launched their first locally built destroyer. The asteroid mining stations have converted to weapons production. They're sending us 1,000 guided missiles per day." General Park nodded. Other species built their ships in massive shipyards over many years. Each ship was a work of art, carefully crafted and irreplaceable. Humans built ships like they built everything else. Fast, simple, and in large numbers. What about personnel? Every colony is sending volunteers. We have more people wanting to serve than we have ships to put them on. That was perhaps the most remarkable thing. When the Vorthons attacked New Sol, they thought they were teaching humanity a lesson about staying weak. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand. Humans weren't like other species. When Vorthons faced a stronger enemy, they accepted defeat with honor. When Federation worlds were threatened, they calculated the odds and sometimes surrendered. But humans? Humans got angry. Colonel Haewon Yu was training the new marine units that would board enemy ships. The training was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. "Remember," she told her trainees, "alien ships are built for their species, not ours. Vorthans are bigger and stronger, but their corridors are too wide. Use that, stay mobile. Federation ships have perfect climate control, but their life support systems are centralized. Take out one node and you can disable entire sections." The Marines practiced in mock-ups of alien ship designs. They learned to fight in artificial gravity that was wrong for human bodies. They trained to use weapons that hadn't existed a month ago. "Colonel," one of the trainees asked, "what if we meet something we haven't prepared for?" "Then you adapt," Haewon replied. "That's what humans do best. We figure things out as we go." On the devastated surface of New Sol, engineer Jin-A Choi crawled through the ruins of her home city. She was Taemin's sister, and she had survived the orbital bombardment by pure luck. Now she led a group of survivors in guerrilla operations against the Vorthan occupation force. The patrol will pass through Sector 7 in 10 minutes, she whispered into her radio. Team 2, are you ready? Ready, came the response. What followed was a perfect example of human adaptation. The Vorthons were powerful warriors, but they were used to fighting other powerful warriors. They weren't prepared for humans who hid in rubble, used improvised weapons, and disappeared before they could be caught. Jin A's people had turned the destroyed city into a maze of traps and hiding spots. They used Vorthon weapons taken from dead soldiers. They studied Vorthon patrol patterns and found weaknesses. Most importantly, they sent everything they learned back to Earth. Vorthon armor is strong, but has weak points at the joints, Jin A reported. Their weapons are powerful but heavy. They get tired faster than humans in long fights. They're not used to enemies who won't stand and fight. This intelligence was worth more than gold. Human military planners used it to design new weapons and tactics specifically for fighting Vorthons. Meanwhile, the galaxy watched in amazement and growing concern. Nexari intelligence broker Silthanas sent urgent reports to his clients. Human industrial capacity was severely underestimated, he wrote. Their ability to convert civilian infrastructure to military production exceeds anything on record. Conservative estimates suggest they will field more ships in 6 months than most species build in 6 years. The reports reached both the Vorthon Empire and the Celestial Federation. Both sides began to worry. High Counselor Nexvareth of the Federation reviewed the intelligence with growing alarm. If these reports are accurate, humanity could become a significant factor in this war. Should we contact them? Asked his aide. Not yet. Let's see what they do to the Vorthons first. In the Vorthon Empire, the reaction was different. War Prince Thexmalon received the reports aboard his flagship orbiting New Sol. Impossible, he declared. These insects cannot build a real military force in mere months. Their ships will be weak toys. His officers weren't so sure. Some had fought humans in the ruins of New Sol's cities. They had seen human determination up close, but none dared contradict the War Prince. Sir, his tactical officer said carefully, the reports suggest they're building many small ships rather than few large ones. That's unusual. It's the approach of weaklings, Thexmalon replied. When our fleet meets theirs, they'll learn what real warships can do. What Thexmalon didn't understand was that humans had studied how galactic warfare worked. They knew that other species built huge, powerful ships that took years to replace, so humans built the opposite. Smaller ships that could be replaced quickly. If a Vorthon dreadnought was destroyed, it was a disaster that took years to recover from. If a human destroyer was destroyed, another one would launch the next week. The first human war fleet left Earth's solar system on a Tuesday morning. 500 ships from tiny fighters to heavy cruisers, all built in less than 4 months. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Kyungsoo Jung stood on the bridge of the flagship Indomitable, watching the stars that had witnessed humanity's first steps into space. Now those same stars would witness humanity's first real war. All ships report ready, Admiral, his communications officer announced. Course laid in for New Sol, the navigator added. All stations. This is Admiral Jung, he broadcast to the fleet. We go to free our people and to show the galaxy that humans protect their own. Today, humanity stops being neutral. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, Earth's factories continued building more ships. Ahead of them waited War Prince Thexmalon and his forces. The War Prince was expecting weak insects flying toys. He was about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. And humanity had just lost 200,000 people who would never come home. War Prince Thexmalon was drinking victory wine when the alarm started screaming. What now? He growled from his command throne aboard the flagship Bloodfang. For weeks, the human insects on New Sol had been causing minor annoyances with their pathetic guerrilla attacks, nothing that required his personal attention. Sir, his tactical officer said nervously, we're detecting a large fleet approaching the system. Human ships, Thexmalon laughed. Finally! The insects come to surrender properly. How many ships? Sir, sensors show approximately 500 vessels. The laughter died. 500? Impossible. Humans don't have 500 warships. Sir, they're dropping out of faster-than-light travel now. Visual confirmation coming in. On the main screen, space filled with human ships. They were smaller than Vorthon vessels, but there were so many of them. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish in the void. Analysis. Thexmalan ordered. Most appear to be destroyers and cruisers, some fighters, a few larger vessels that might be their equivalent of dreadnoughts. Sir, they're not running. That was what bothered Thexmalan most. Every species he'd fought before had either fled immediately or tried to negotiate when faced with his fleet. These humans were doing neither. They were taking attack positions. Admiral Kyung-Soo Jung stood on the bridge of Indomitable, studying the Vorthon formation. 47 ships, all of them bigger than anything in his fleet. In a traditional battle, this would be hopeless. But humans didn't fight traditional battles. Commander So-Young Lee, are all ships receiving the tactical data link? Yes, sir. Every ship in the fleet is sharing sensor information in real time. This was something new in galactic warfare. Most species had ships that fought independently with minimal coordination. Human ships were all connected, sharing targeting data and tactical information instantly. Captain Wu Jin Lee, are your fighters ready? Ready and eager, Admiral. Wu Jin commanded 3 squadrons of the new human fighters. Each fighter was small, fast, and carried weapons designed specifically for this battle. They had studied Vorthon ships for months looking for weaknesses. All ships, this is Admiral Jung. We are here to free New Seoul and show the galaxy what happens when you attack human civilians. Remember your training. Fight smart, fight together, and bring our people home. The human fleet moved forward. War Prince Thexmalan watched them come and felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Confusion. The humans were actually going to fight. These tiny ships were going to attack his mighty fleet. All weapons prepare to fire, he ordered. We'll destroy them quickly and get back to important matters. The battle began when human fighters swarmed toward the Vorthon ships like angry insects. Thexmalan's gunners opened fire, expecting to sweep them aside easily. They found themselves facing something they had never seen before. Captain Wu Jin Lee led his fighters in complex patterns that confused Vorthon targeting systems. When one fighter was targeted, 3 others immediately moved to support it. When Vorthon guns tracked left, the fighters split right and left simultaneously. Remember, Wu Jin called to his pilots, don't try to match their firepower. We're faster and smarter. Use it. The fighters didn't try to destroy Vorthon ships directly. Instead, they targeted specific systems, sensor arrays, weapon targeting systems, engine cooling vents, things that would disable rather than destroy. Within minutes, several Vorthon ships were firing blindly, their sensors damaged by precise fighter attacks. What are they doing? Thexmalan demanded. Why aren't they attacking properly? His tactical officer stared at the displays. Sir, they're targeting our subsystems. They're trying to disable us rather than destroy us, cowards. Face us like warriors. But the humans weren't interested in honor. They were interested in winning. As the fighters kept the Vorthon gunners busy, the human destroyers moved in. Commander So-Young Lee coordinated their attack from Indomitable, using the shared tactical network to control hundreds of ships like one giant weapon. Group Alpha, target the flagship's left flank. Group Beta, hit the dreadnought's engines. Group Gamma, concentrate fire on the cruiser formation. The human ships attacked in waves, never staying in one place long enough for Vorthon weapons to target them effectively. When the Vorthons focused on one group, another group would attack from a different direction. Lieutenant Seok-Ho Kim commanded the destroyer Defiant. His ship took a direct hit from a Vorthon plasma cannon that should have destroyed it completely. Instead, the ship kept fighting. Damage report, he called. Engines at 60%. Weapons at 80%. Hull breach on deck 3, but the compartment is sealed. We're still in the fight, sir. This amazed the Vorthons. Their ships were more powerful, but they were also more fragile. When a Vorthon ship was damaged, it usually withdrew for repairs. Human ships were built to take damage and keep fighting. Captain Hyejin Nam commanded the heavy cruiser Vengeance. She had lost her daughter in the orbital bombardment of New Seoul. Her entire crew was made up of New Seoul survivors. They fought with a fury that frightened even themselves. Target the ship that fired on the capital district, she ordered. Ma'am, that's the flagship. It's heavily shielded. Then we'll hit it until the shields fall. Vengeance attacked the flagship directly, ignoring the return fire. The ship took damage that would have crippled most vessels, but Nam's crew kept it operational through skill and pure determination. War Prince Thexmalan felt his ship shake under the human assault. This wasn't how battles were supposed to work. Where was the honor? Where was the single combat between mighty warriors? Sir, we're taking significant damage, his tactical officer reported. Their weapons are weaker than ours, but they're hitting us with hundreds of shots for every one we fire. Then increase our rate of fire. Sir, we're already at maximum. There are too many of them. For the first time in his career, Thexmalon considered retreat. But that was impossible. He was a Vorthon warrior. Warriors didn't retreat from insects, all ships ramming speed. We'll destroy them with our superior mass. It was exactly the wrong decision. Human ships were smaller and faster. As the Vorthon ships charged forward, the human fleet scattered like leaves in the wind, then reformed behind the enemy formation. Now they've turned their backs to us, Admiral Jung observed calmly. All ships target their engines. The concentrated fire of 500 human ships fell on the rear of the Vorthon fleet. Engines exploded. Ships tumbled out of control. The proud Vorthon formation became a scattered mess of damaged vessels. Supply Master Jae Sung Oh had been busy during the battle. While the warships fought, his supply vessels had been quietly reloading human ships with ammunition and fuel. This was another thing that confused the Vorthons. The human fleet never seemed to run out of weapons to fire. Sir, Thexmalon's tactical officer said quietly, I recommend we withdraw and regroup. Withdraw? Thexmalon roared. I am a Vorthon prince. I do not withdraw from insects. Sir, we've lost 18 ships. The humans have lost 3. At this rate, we will show them what real warriors can do. But Thexmalon was wrong. Real warriors knew when to retreat and fight another day. Pride was making him stupid. The human fleet pressed their advantage. They had learned that Vorthon ships were individually more powerful, but human ships could work together in ways Vorthons couldn't match. Dr. Yojin An, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, watched the battle from Earth and provided analysis that would shock both sides of the Galactic War. They're not just winning, she reported to Earth Command. They're learning. Watch how they adapt their tactics in real time. When the Vorthons try a new strategy, the humans counter it within minutes. This was perhaps the most frightening thing about humanity from an alien perspective. Other species fought the way they had always fought. Humans changed their approach constantly, adapting to whatever their enemy did. As the battle continued, reports reached both the Vorthon Empire and the Celestial Federation. A human fleet was not just fighting Vorthon forces. They were winning. High Counselor Nexvareth of the Federation reviewed the tactical data with growing amazement. How are they doing this? Their individual ships are inferior to Vorthon vessels. They're fighting as a unified force, his military advisor explained. Every ship shares information with every other ship. It's like they have one mind controlling hundreds of bodies. In Vorthon space, Empress Velthara received reports of the battle with shock. Thexmalon is losing? To humans? It appears so, Your Majesty. Their tactics are unprecedented. The battle reached its climax when War Prince Thexmalon, in desperation, ordered his remaining ships to form a defensive circle around his flagship. It was a classic Vorthon formation that had won many battles. Admiral Jung smiled when he saw it. Perfect. Commander Lee, implement Plan 7. The human ships suddenly stopped their chaotic swarming and formed into precise attack groups. Half the fleet created a sphere around the Vorthon formation, while the other half attacked from above and below simultaneously. It was like watching a three-dimensional chess game played with warships. The end came suddenly. Overwhelmed by attacks from every direction, the Vorthon formation collapsed. Ship after ship suffered critical damage. Finally, even Thexmalon's flagship was crippled, its weapons offline and engines dead. The attack on Earth came 6 months later. War Prince Thexmalon had spent those months in a human prison, watching reports of his people's growing humiliation. Human fleets had liberated 17 star systems. Vorthon warriors who had never known defeat were surrendering to ships half their size. The Empire was desperate. They needed a victory to restore their reputation, so they did the one thing that would prove to be their greatest mistake. They attacked humanity's homeworld. Admiral Kyung-Soo Jung was in his office on Luna when the alert started flooding in. The largest Vorthon fleet in history had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. How many ships? He asked his aide. Initial count shows over 200 vessels, sir, including at least 30 dreadnoughts. Jung smiled grimly. They want to end this war with one big battle. Call General Park. Tell him it's time. General Insoo Park had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. Earth's defenses were no longer the token force they had been when the war started. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. "All defense stations, this is Control," he broadcast. "Operation Homecoming is now active. Repeat, Homecoming is active." Across the solar system, weapons platforms that had been hidden in asteroids and moon bases suddenly came online. The approaching Vorthon fleet found themselves facing not just Earth's mobile fleet, but an entire solar system turned into a fortress. Commander Jiho Kim was now Admiral Kim, commanding Earth's home fleet from the new flagship Terra. His fleet had grown from a few patrol ships to over 1,000 vessels. But this would be the real test. "They're heading straight for Earth," reported So Young Lee, now his tactical officer. "No attempt at subtlety." "Good," Admiral Kim replied. "Let them come. We've been waiting." The Vorthon strategy was simple and brutal. Overwhelm Earth's defenses with superior numbers, destroy the human homeworld, and end humanity's participation in galactic affairs. Permanently, what they didn't know was that Earth had become the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. The first surprise came when the Vorthon fleet reached Jupiter. Hidden weapons platforms in the gas giant's moons opened fire with weapons that made the Jupiter storm look small by comparison. Captain Boram Seo, now commanding the engineering ships that maintained the outer defenses, watched as her carefully planned traps activated. Platform 7 reports successful engagement. Enemy dreadnought is disabled. The Vorthons pressed on, losing ships but maintaining their advance. They had expected some defenses. They hadn't expected the entire solar system to be armed. At Mars, orbital shipyards that appeared to be civilian facilities suddenly revealed themselves as military fortresses. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment opened fire on the passing fleet. Captain Dong Hyun Kang, now Admiral Kang, coordinated the asteroid belt defenses. "Remember, we don't need to destroy them all. We just need to weaken them before they reach Earth." His hidden bases in the asteroid struck like space pirates, hitting the Vorthon formation from unexpected angles before disappearing back into the rock fields. But the Vorthons kept coming. Even with their losses, they still outnumbered Earth's mobile fleet. The final battle began in Earth's orbit itself. General Park stood in the command center built deep under the Rocky Mountains, watching displays that showed every ship in the solar system. All civilian populations are in shelters. Mobile fleet is in position. Fixed defenses are ready. "Sir," his aide reported, "the enemy fleet has reached Earth orbit. They're taking positions for planetary bombardment." Park nodded. "Then let's show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Activate the planetary defense grid." What followed amazed even the humans who had built it. The surface of Earth erupted with weapons, not just military bases, but disguised installations that had been built into mountains, hidden under cities, camouflaged as civilian structures. The entire planet had become a weapon. Energy beams reached into space like the fingers of an angry god. Missile salvos launched from every continent, the sky filled with fire as Earth defended itself. "Impossible," whispered the Vorthon fleet commander. "No planet has defenses like this." Captain Hyejin Nam commanded the Vengeance in the battle's center. She had been promoted after her actions at New Seoul, and her ship was now one of humanity's most famous vessels. Her crew was still mostly New Seoul survivors, and they fought with the fury of people defending their only remaining home. "Target the flagship," she ordered. "And this." Vengeance led a group of human heavy cruisers straight at the Vorthon command ship. They took massive damage, but human ships had been designed to absorb punishment and keep fighting. Meanwhile, engineer Jin Choi was no longer hiding in ruins. She commanded a special operations team that had infiltrated one of the Vorthon dreadnoughts using captured transport ships. "We're inside their primary vessel," she reported over her radio. "Beginning sabotage operations." Her team moved through the alien ship like ghosts, disabling critical systems from within. They had studied Vorthon technology for months and knew exactly where to strike. The Vorthon crew discovered too late that humans could fight effectively, even inside enemy ships. High above the battle, Supply Master Jae Sung coordinated the logistics that kept Earth's defenses operating. While other species saw war as clashes between individual ships, humans understood that battles were won by superior organization and supply lines. "Ammunition supplies holding steady," he reported. "Replacement crews are standing by. Medical facilities are ready for casualties." This was another shock for the Vorthons. Human ships that should have been destroyed by damage kept returning to battle with repairs completed and crews refreshed. The turning point came when the Vorthon flagship itself came under concentrated attack. Captain He Jin-nam's ship group had damaged its shields, while Jin-A Choi's sabotage team had disabled its main weapons. Admiral Kim saw the opportunity. All ships concentrate fire on the enemy flagship. End this now. The combined fire of Earth's entire fleet focused on one target. The Vorthon flagship, which had seemed invincible at the battle's start, began to break apart under the assault. But the real shock came when the ship's commander tried to surrender. "This is Admiral Kim of Earth Forces," came the broadcast. "Your surrender is accepted. Prepare to be boarded." It was Captain He Jin-nam who led the boarding party. She walked onto the bridge of the enemy flagship with a squad of human marines, facing the aliens who had murdered her daughter. The Vorthon commander looked at her with something like respect. "You fight well for insects. We fight for our homes," He Jin replied simply. "You attacked our families. What did you expect?" With their flagship captured and their fleet in ruins, the remaining Vorthon ships began to surrender. The Battle of Earth was over, but the war's consequences were just beginning. News of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy within hours. The mighty Vorthon Empire, which had terrorized countless worlds, had been defeated by a species that most aliens considered primitive newcomers. Empress Velthara herself contacted Earth directly. It was the first time in Vorthon history that an empress had spoken directly to a lesser species. "President Park," she said formally, "the Vorthon Empire requests negotiations." "Negotiations?" Park replied. "You mean surrender terms?" The silence that followed said everything. High Counselor, Nexaverith of the Celestial Federation also called Earth. "Perhaps it's time we discussed a formal alliance," he suggested. "Perhaps," Park agreed. "But it will be an alliance between equals, not a patron and client relationship." That, too, was a first in galactic politics. Dr. Minho Zhang and Dr. Yunji Quan found themselves flooded with requests from alien scientists wanting to study human technology. Species that had ignored Earth for decades suddenly wanted to learn from human engineers. Foreign Minister Young-Mi Han established new diplomatic protocols. Earth would no longer accept being treated as a junior member of galactic civilization. Any future agreements would recognize humanity as a major power. Engineer Jin-A Choi oversaw the rebuilding of New Seoul, but this time it was built as a fortress as well as a city. Never again would human civilians be defenseless. The final scene took place in President Park's office. War Prince Thexmalon had been brought there for a private meeting before his trial. "Why?" Thexmalon asked. "Why did you fight so hard?" Most species would have submitted after the first defeat. Park looked at the alien warrior with something that might have been pity. "Because you made a fundamental mistake. You thought our desire for peace meant we couldn't fight. You confused neutrality with weakness. Your ships were inferior. Your weapons were weaker. Our ships were different," Park corrected, "built for different purposes. You build ships to win glorious battles. We built ships to win wars." Thexmalon was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now?" "Now the galaxy learns a new lesson," Park replied. "Leave humanity alone and we'll leave you alone. We don't want to conquer anyone or rule anyone. But attack our people, threaten our homes, and you'll discover that there's no force in the galaxy more dangerous than humans defending their families." The president stood and walked to his window, looking out at the stars where human ships now patrolled. "The war is over, Prince, but the peace is just beginning. And it will be a peace where Earth has a voice."